Okay, and in this last video we're just gonna figure out basically how we're gonna create the surfaces for the side panels over here. It's really important that you keep looking back at your reference, and it might give you some ideas on how you need to kind of break this up. Basically, I'm seeing that it's probably a good idea if I actually make this whole piece right here into one plane right here. And again, the idea is that once I turn everything into polys, I might be able to attach it here and be able to have that detail throughout without having to do it to every single specific piece. Definitely this and door right here needs to be one piece. So this right here, then this probably one or two pieces, and then this last part over here. So again, let's just take that approach and see if this works. Again, there's no right or wrong way of going about it. Different approaches that you can take. This is just something that I feel is going to work for my vehicle, and again, let's just see if it works. So again, I need to make sure I convert this splines into NURBs. I'm probably going to need to do the same with this one. No, this one's already NURBs. So now I want to make sure. I'm probably going to end up doing a boundary here, and again, it's because most likely going to keep some of this curvature better than it would without it. But again, I might end up doing it. It might not really do what it's supposed to do as far as keeping the curvature. So that got to keep in mind that that's also a possibility, and especially with some of these areas, the topology might not be that great. So I have to also keep in mind that this is a strategy that might not really work well, and I might actually have to break it into more pieces, which is probably what's going to end up happening. But again, I want to give this a try and see what happens. So again, this one has 24 spans, and this one has 25. Probably want to make it even, and I still want to reconstruct them so I can have some of this, some of my SUVs better evenly kind of distributed. So let's go into reveal this curve, and let's just make it 26. Okay. And again, that didn't seem to be doing much of a change there. Let's just do the same with this one. Okay. And here, I'm going to have to cut this. And I'm going to detach the curves. And let's just see at the end over here. Okay, and 2 spans seems to be fine. But again, I want to rebuild it so my UVs are a little more uniform. So let's just apply there and apply here, and let's just go ahead and let's see what results I get by doing it this way. And again, I want to make sure that I forgot to add the surface there. Okay, so now I got it, and let's just do boundary. Okay, so actually this wasn't as bad as I feared. Okay, it actually kept some of the detail going on, and the topology is not that bad. So I'm actually going to keep that as is. Seeing a little bit of weird issues over here, and again, that might not sure what the Might be because we don't have enough resolution to get a nicer curve over here, which probably means that I could potentially take my surface and maybe change it up a bit. Again, I can always kind of reconstruct my surfaces, rebuild them, and I think this would be 26, and probably want to make this into a 3 or a 4. Let's just try this. Okay. Again, that's a little nicer. Okay, let's just move on to the next one. And again, I already said that I want to make this into one whole piece. So this type of detail is something that I'm not gonna be too concerned about right now, or maybe I can actually add it into what I'm doing here. And again, let's just see what we can do about it, because I'm gonna need to add it here as well. So I want to make a duplicate of this because I'm gonna need this later on. So I'm gonna add this into my layer of splines that I'm trying to hide and not use. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in here. Let's just look at the vertices. Okay, curve point. I want to cut this one in half. Let's just detach it so we have one on top and one on bottom. And I want to do the same thing here. And again, at this point I'm not sure if this is going to work. Let's just hope it does. And alright, that seems pretty good. Just save this progress for now. And again, just in case this doesn't work out, I want to be able to go back to a file where I don't have these changes made. So let's just detach that, and we don't need this. And I'm going to go ahead and attach this to that. So let's just go ahead and attach it. And again, I want to make sure I go in here and I delete my history, so this piece is not dependent on the other ones. Alright. Alright. And alright, let's just leave that as is. And I want to rebuild this curve. And I need this to have enough resolution to keep some of this curvature, so let's just do something like 20. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's definitely messed up some of that. And again, this is some of the changes that I was fearing, and perhaps why this might not be a good approach for this. And perhaps this is a detail that I can leave, that I can actually create when I'm kind of working with polygons and stuff like that. So I'm actually gonna not do what I decided that I was gonna do, because it might not give me the results that I'm looking for. And this is actually a detail that I'm gonna leave for later when I have my polygons already set up. So alright, let's just go with my original plan, and let's just make this into a whole piece. And I want to rebuild this. Let's just make it something like, I don't know, 16. And again, 16. And this I'm going to have to cut here somewhere, because again, to do a boundary I need 4 surfaces. So maybe somewhere around here, and just attach. Okay. And making sure that this are NURBs as well. And I'm going to go ahead and rebuild this to 16. Okay. And again, I want to make sure that this, I delete the history so it's not affected by anything that I do to the splines, and I'm going to put it into my surfaces. that way I'm not affecting it. And I'm gonna add a couple cuts here so I can get this spline right here. Alright, and I want to detach that, so now I got that by itself and this. So let's see, make sure that this is a NURB. So we want to reconstruct this as well. Let's just leave it at 16 as well. So apply here and apply here. Then I'm going to grab all these for boundary. Alright, and perhaps 16 by 16 is a little bit too much. I don't think I need that much resolution here. And again, another problem that I'm having here is that this plan actually goes all the way up, and that was kind of creating some irregular geometry over here. So I need to make sure that this is cut where it needs to be cut. Alright. And again, this doesn't need to be 16. Let's just do something like 10 perhaps. 10 on all of them. So let's just go ahead and select them all. Okay, and this is another problem. Oh, wrong one actually. This one needs to be 10. Okay. So let's just do another boundary here. And boundary. Okay. Alright, and this is one piece that I'm seeing a lot of irregularity in the topology. It's probably got to do a lot with the way that these were transformed into not necessarily what happened here, but mostly what this one over here is doing. This curve over here. So again, I might want to go in there and maybe fix that up a bit. And again, I want to probably hide my surfaces here. Yeah, this is way too irregular. Alright, and again, as long as the top and the bottom stay where they're supposed to be, I can probably move some of these points around. Again, I've got to be mindful of maybe this one right here. So maybe making sure that these are straight would probably be the best approach for my geometry to be a little more straight. And yeah, again, this is just way too irregular. Okay, and probably want to fix these two. Bit. Okay, so let's see, hopefully by fixing this up a little bit I can probably get a better surface. Again, I didn't need to delete the surface because there was a history dependency, but it's just easier if I don't have that there. And again, geometry is going to be a little bit nicer, but we're still getting a little bit of issues here. Not sure why this is not sticking to this line over here, but you know, I can always go into my side viewport and probably fix that. Alright. myself, and sometimes you're gonna have to do that because not everything's gonna fit perfect. Okay, and you know, on maybe having 10 spans going out like this was a little bit too much, but I can always go in there and in my edit NURBS tab and find rebuild the plane and kind of maybe lower the topology a little bit, make it a little bit more flexible to work with. But for now, I'm just gonna move this up myself. Okay. And I could probably go in there and maybe touch it up a little bit, but I want to maybe rebuild the surface first. Again, let's just see if we can do something like 10 on V, maybe 6 on U. Again, let's just see what that does. Again, that's a little cleaner right there. A little bit more flexible to work with, and I can definitely go back into my side viewport and maybe fix this up a bit more. Okay, because again, this is going to need to match whatever's going on here, so we can't just leave that surface like that. And Loft and probably wouldn't have given me a better result. Okay. Let's just go back to my perspective, and again, I'm going to leave this surface as is. I'm going to delete the history on it, and I'm going to add it to my surfaces. Just cancel that. Alright. Again, I probably want to add these two back over there. Okay, so, okay, we're getting there. We're almost there. Again, we have a bunch of copy splines over here that we have not put anywhere yet. So I probably want to make sure that they go somewhere. Surfaces. Oops. Again, it's just in an effort to kind of keep things better organized. And these seems to be copies that I've made to make changes to it, so I'm just going to keep that one in my other splines layer. Okay. Seems like I have what I need on this one. Perhaps not all that I need. Let's just go back here. Make sure I add this one here. And it didn't. Okay. So next I'm going to create this surface. Again, I don't have this piece, so I want to add it here as well. Okay. And again, I want to rebuild them. I want to make sure that I can create a surface out of this. So this is probably going to require a bit of geometry to make sure it keeps some of that roundness, especially here. And again, Gotta make sure that if this one has 10 spans, this is probably gonna need the same. So let's just make sure that this is a NURB, which is already a NURB. So I want to rebuild that curve. Okay, and that's 10. So I'm just gonna apply that. And there's something weird going on there. Okay. And let's see, this one has 11, this one has 6. Again, I don't want to mess with the curvature of this one, because if I try and rebuild it, it might do something weird to it. So I probably want to maybe give this part right here only 6 spans and just see what it does. So again, I want to make sure that this is a NURB, and it is, and we want to rebuild this to 6, so I'll apply that, and let's just go ahead and do a boundary and see if we get the results that we want. Okay, and again, this is one of those things where we might want to consider perhaps not having as much resolution here, because it's definitely it's pretty dense, and the question is, when we go to this surface, it's whether or not it needs that much going across. And again, the other thing that you got to keep in mind is that eventually these are going to be one piece once you kind of attach everything together and start doing the details. So probably 10's a little bit too much, but you do want to keep some of that resolution in there for future details and to make sure that everything matches. So again, perhaps 10 is too much, but let's just rebuild that surface. Again, let's just see what happens if I do 6 and 6. Okay, and that's a little bit more manageable, and I probably want to do the same thing here. Okay, so that's going to work really well. Okay, now let's just focus on the bottom area here, and again, I want to determine how I'm going to deal with this over here. So and again, let's just look at my reference to see how that back part is supposed to work. It's supposed to be one piece, this whole piece. We could probably maybe attempt to make it into one piece. Let's see, we got this line. Probably gonna have to make it part of this line over here, and again, I want to add this to my surfaces. I think I have, yeah, I need this spline right here. Okay. And again, I'm noticing that I have some weird kind of faults here. I think I'm gonna have to go in there and maybe fix this up a bit. So I definitely don't want to use this, but I want to use maybe some duplicate of this. Because I'm going to need it in the future. So I'm going to select this to a duplicate. Okay, and I want to add those here. Okay, now for the surface that I'm going to build over here, I'm not going to need this part, and I'm probably going to need this part for this that I'm going to be creating here. So let's just go ahead and detach it. Okay, so we got this. Okay, and this one originally was kind of separated into a couple pieces. Okay, and I see why I had to move this line over here. I made a mistake So you can see this line actually goes all the way out here, and I didn't notice that was the reason. So again, you just gotta be really careful with that. And again, I'm gonna have to at some point rebuild this part, this panel right here, because the geometry is just way too irregular. But let's just go ahead and let's just use this for now. Let's just detach that. Okay. And this and this needs to be attached along with this line. And again, and again, there is no kind of sharpness here to this rim kind of area here, so I don't need, I guess, this line for that. So I'm gonna make this into one piece, so I'm just gonna go ahead and attach these curves. Okay, and again, gotta make sure I delete the history there because I don't want it to be dependent on the pieces that I'm not using. So I'm just gonna get rid of those, and I have just one piece, which is the top. Now I have one for the bottom. Okay, and then do I need to keep the sharpness here? And the answer is no. That's a smooth surface. And you know, we have this cut over here, so okay, perhaps I should have left that piece right there go through. But I'm just gonna go ahead and again that's perhaps a problem that I can deal with later. I'm just gonna go ahead and attach this, get rid of that. I'm gonna be using this as one of my sides, then the bottom I'm not gonna be using that one, and this one. So I'm gonna have to come here and separate this one or detach it. Okay, and this is a piece that could potentially give me very irregular geometry. So again, what I'm doing potentially might not work, so I have to kind of just see what happens, and if it does work, great. If not, then I have to think about some other way that I can go about it. But let's just go ahead and rebuild these curves. And on the side, we probably want to keep it low, something like 4. So let's just apply that and apply it here. Okay. Again, I don't need to mess with that one. And this one needs to be pretty dense in order to keep a lot of this curvature here. And perhaps I might just leave it at 24 and just change this one to do the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and I need to make sure that it's a NURB, and now it applies. Okay, so 24, 24, 4, and 4. So again, let's just do another boundary. Let's just see what happens. Alright, so very irregular geometry. Again, this might not fly. This might not work very well. I could try and perhaps maybe rebuild the surface and just kind of get an idea of I think if we do something like 4 and 24, let's just see what it does. So, and again, it kind of cleans it up a little bit, but we have a lot of problems going on here. and this might not be a good solution. So again, I'm not gonna fall in love with that idea. I'm just gonna go ahead and figure out what else I could do here. Let's see. Well, let's try a couple of things, and again, there's no right or wrong way of going about this. Let's just see what works best. So I can definitely create a boundary by perhaps maybe having a line that goes to maybe here, and maybe I can create a line that just does this, and then I can just attach them together when I turn to polygons. So let's just give that a try. And again, I need to create another line here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do Bezier, and I'm going to snap here. So let's just do here and here. Okay, and that should work just fine for what I need to do. And this curve I'm going to separate a couple pieces with just the one piece. So I'm just going to detach here. Okay, and then this and this are going to become one piece. Alright, and again, I want to make sure that I delete the history and get rid of what I don't need, which is the single pieces. Alright, so now I got one single piece there, and probably I want to detach here as well. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And this one's going to be another surface right here. So let's just do that. Again, I probably want to do this first and then move on to this one. So this one's 8 spans, this one's 4. I'm going to need the resolution here to kind of conserve this shape, and again, I want to make sure that this is turned into a NURB. So I want to change this into 8. So rebuild curve. Let's just see what it does. Alright, so it didn't change my curve too much. And this one's 7, and this one is still 24, so we need to detach here. And this one's 4, and this one needs to be 4, so let's just change this to 4. And again, I got some really weird kind of interpretations of what that line should be, so I'm just going to go ahead and fix it up real quick. Alright, and let's just create a boundary out of this. And again, I'm getting some really weird irregular geometry here, but I think I can fix this just by rebuilding that surface. Alright, and 4 by 8, I think it was. Alright, so that worked really well for that surface. And let's just do this one now. And again, I want to delete the history on this one, so it's not dependent on this spline that I gotta cut now. I want to add this to my surfaces. Okay, that way I'm not selecting it. So I want to add a curve point here and detach. It's got one span. This one has 4. I gotta make, again, some of these pieces are going to be attached to each other, so I need to have an idea of how many are here. or how many I'm going to need to be able to combine this. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 5 at least. So let's just change these to 5. So let's see, rebuild that curve. 5. Alright, and then 5 here. Again, a little bit of weirdness there, so I need to make sure I fix that before I create a curvature. Okay, and this one is 14. This one is 21, so let's change this to 14. Apply it, and let's go ahead and do a boundary with this. Alright, so again, we're getting some kind of regular geometry there, so we want to rebuild this surface. So we're gonna do 5, and what was the bottom one over here? 14. Okay. Okay, and that fixed that geometry a bit. Okay, I can work with that. Alright, let's just kind of finish up here with this piece. Again, I'm probably going to have to cut these into 2 separate pieces. One for here and one for the bottom. So let's just do that, and again, I just want to, I gotta keep that kind of hard edge over here, so I probably want to do that separately. So let's see, this can definitely be a loft right here. Alright, and again, I don't want to take into account the whole part, because I already know that this doesn't need to be sharp. Okay, and it's gonna be cut off anyway. So might as well just do it now. So again, I want to go here and add a curve point at this point, detach it, same with this one, and detach, and then I want to select these two and loft them. Alright, and I'm definitely gonna have to go in here and topologize this, but I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna do that another time. Alright, so this part right here, again, this is gonna be another one that's gonna be pretty interesting to try and create a surface for. I'm gonna go ahead and again delete the history here, so this is not dependent on it. Put it in the right layer. And then, okay, I know I want to create one that's just going to be taking care of this part, because again, if I look at my reference, it is a separate piece altogether anyway, so I probably want to make it like that to start with. I want to make sure that it has and again, another thing that I'm noticing is that perhaps it's probably better if I actually keep some of this as a whole piece, but again, I could probably fix that later on. So let's see, let's just add a curve point here. And detach that. Okay, and this is one of those instances where this is what happens if you don't delete the history on your surfaces, and if I affect it, then it actually affects what I did before as well with the surface. So I need to make sure that the history, okay, I delete the history, so when I come here and I add and I detach this, it doesn't affect what I did there before. Okay, and so let's see, we have this bottom one which has 4 spans. This one has 13, it's probably a little bit too much, and I see why, because it's running all the way back there. Alright, so perhaps I can just make a cut here. There is a cut over here, so probably can just do that right here as well, just detach. Okay, so this has 10 spans, again a little bit too much, so let's just rebuild that curve, and I just need this to have 4 for now. And again, gotta make sure that this is a NURB curve. And let's just reconstruct this one as well. Okay. Now this one, again, I gotta cut it off here. So let's just go ahead and detach here. And this one is 3 spans. This one is 8, and I'm just going to go ahead and increase the spans on this one so we kind of get a little bit of nicer curvature here. Alright, and again, let's just go ahead and do a boundary here. Okay, and again, we're getting some irregular geometry in there, so I want to make sure I rebuild that. This is going to be a rebuild a surface. Let's just do 8x4. Okay, that's a little cleaner, nicer, we can work with it. And again, at some point I'm going to have to see, for instance, if I look at my surfaces over here, this is going to have to be attached to this, and you know, one of the things that I'm seeing here is that it's not matching, so there's going to have to be a little more reconstruction later on, but for now I'm just going to leave it as is. And again, I'm seeing some irregularities in my geometry here, and it's mostly because, again, when I'm kind of rebuilding, this is kind of maybe curving this more than I would like it to. So again, just got to keep that in mind, that that's a possibility of something happening. And again, at this point, there's still kind of a relationship between the curve and a piece of geometry, so maybe I can fix this up now before I delete the history. Alright, again, that's a lot nicer. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the history on this one, and now we have this piece. Alright, and this bottom part is something that I'm probably going to want to turn into one piece. And again, I want to make sure that my surfaces are locked. I want to add this there, so I'm not selecting it. Okay. Okay, last one. What's going on here? Okay, I just want to make sure this is on the right layer. Okay. Okay, so let's just do a curve point here. Alright, and then detach. Okay. And now let's turn all these into one by just attaching those curves. Okay, and again I want to make sure I go in here and delete the history, so this is not dependent on the pieces, on the individual pieces. Probably want to get rid of those, or I could probably put them in my other layer. Again, it's completely up to you how you go about this. Alright, so we got another one that's right here, and then this guy. Okay, and then this last one, which I believe is in my other layer. Okay, so now let's again, I need to kind of look in here and see what's going on. And this is only 15. I probably want to make sure that this one is the same. So let's go to edit curves and rebuild that curve. We want it to be 15 and apply. Okay, so 15, 15, and this we're gonna have to cut here and then detach. Alright, and that's 5. And this is 3, so we probably want to turn it into 5. Actually, just turn this into 4. See if it just gives us a little bit of cleaner geometry. Okay, and now let's just go ahead and do a boundary, and let's hope this works. And again, I know for a fact I'm going to get some weird geometry here, but let's just see what it does. Okay, so not too bad. And again, I'm getting really weird kind of sharp edges here because there's really a lot of kind of geometry being here, but I can rebuild the surface. And let's see, 4 by, what was it, 15 I believe, all the way around. 14 by 15 and apply. Okay, and again I'm probably gonna have to go in there and maybe adjust this a little bit more. Okay, let's just do it again. Now, there are certain things that, when you have something like this and you're trying to rebuild it, you might do some things where you're kind of losing some of the detail. And again, you can decide to do that willingly and just, you know, say to yourself that that's something that you're gonna address kind of later on. And again, I want to, you know, this might be a little bit too flat. I'm not sure if that's something that's going to stay. Might have to fix that up later. But you know, just know that you can also, you know, if you choose to, you can edit some of this yourself if you don't want to lose some of that detail. And again, it's just a matter of going here and selecting isoforms, and you know, if I know that these two are way too close, I can just select the one and delete it. And it could be a little tedious, but you might be able to keep more of the detail than what you had at the beginning. Alright. But again, that's completely up to you if you want to go through the process of doing that. You could just very simply just rebuild it like this. But again, keep in mind that some of these details not translating the way it needs to translate, because we need a little bit more curvature here, so we're going to have to address that and move our curves around, or maybe play with our curves a little bit here, so you know, it starts out round and then it ends kind of round here, and you know, that could be the problem that we got here. There's not enough roundness going on. Okay, I could always rebuild this, so let's just do 2. I could always select this kind of hole of vertices, just kind of push them out, do that too. But then again, I'm kind of mismatching some of the stuff that I got going on, so I might not want to do that, or at least not at this point. Anyway, so at least this concludes the added surfaces part, and again, I'm gonna have to kind of go in here and maybe just revise some of this stuff, because not everything's gonna kind of come out the way you want to. This is one surface that definitely needs some addressing, and this one over here I believe was another one that I mentioned, and I might have to go back and maybe redo some of the pieces that, you know, maybe there was a better way of kind of just going about it. Let's just add the splines. Okay, but at least we have the beginnings of our surface, and at this point, again, we're probably gonna have to go in here, maybe fix some of our surfaces so they work a little bit better. This one's definitely one that's gonna need a little bit of work. This one right here, especially because we're probably gonna need this to have a little bit more curvature for this to translate better. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back to fix some of this, and you know, you will have to as well on your files. But this is a good start for what we're going for. Alright, so this concludes the tutorials on how to build a surfaces out of the spline cage. Thank you for watching.